So here you can find that there are various IO buffering schemes. So the very first one is of no buffer. So the example we have discussed comes under no buffer. So what happens? There are various problems which we have discussed as like whenever there is a movement of the particular process which requests for IO process, there is a loss and there are chances for single process deadlock. And to overcome this, we have to lock the particular process, right? So because of that, even the operating system is not able to move, that is swap out the process. So to overcome this, there is a advanced read in is required, and for out operation it can wait for a few moments and it can decide how exactly it can, when it can exactly move the data from the process to the IO devices, right? So the ideology is here, say whenever there is a read in, right? In the case of block oriented, the first block of a data will be loaded into some reserved space of a main memory. So it is not to the process whichever requested the data from the IO devices. Instead, it is not directly going to given the process whichever it is requested. Instead, there is a portion of memory is reserved as a buffer, right? And the data whichever are read from that IO devices will be stored in that buffer. So now that particular area reserved as a buffer which is associated with that process, there should be a mapping which have to be maintained. So upon completion of a particular complete block read, then it will be informed to the process get ready to receive one block of data. So now it can receive. So after receiving it, it can go for to read the next block of data to the buffer. So this is how exactly the buffer is used in IO device to overcome the problems whichever we have discussed. So here how it is overcomes this buffering concept, how it gives a remedy for those. Say whenever the IO devices is reading the data whichever are requested by this user process, it is storing in this buffer. This particular buffer is nothing but it is a reserved space in main memory. So now these two are mapped, right? So during the course of transferring data from this IO to this buffer, this particular user process can be swapped out from the main memory. So it is not compulsory to be there in the main memory, right? So it can go out and it can come later on as soon as it is filled. So after coming in, it can be stored. Then next it can move the next block of a data, right? So the next level of buffering is two buffer. Here there are two buffers introduced. You can call it as a two buffer or double buffer. Say here, whenever this IO is filling this first buffer, the user process can empty. It can go to empty the buffer 2, right? So it is keep on receiving the data whichever are filled. So upon completion, it can come here and it can go here, right? So alternatively, so what happens here at the same time, it can transfer data to this and it can move the data from the buffer to here. So appropriate mapping is required, and it has to be keep track of this operating system, what particular which particular area is mapped with the process, because there are so many movement of process in and out, swap in and swap out is happening. So the reserved buffering area have to be preserved, right? Then the fourth category is of IO with circular buffer. It is of circular buffer. So here a number of buffers are introduced, right? So which can, this is nothing but it is 2, and here you can find that there are more than 2 buffers, right? So which can easily fill up whatever the buffer is free, and it can read from one after another, right? So it is going to give you a speed up, right?